are live as always on Thursdays. So, what do we have? Let's wait for everybody to join in. Hello, everybody. We have sunshine on one day and then rain on the other, and then it's cold and then it's hot. So a typical New York spring. I hope everybody's enjoying it. I can never get used to this weather. We are continuing to get vaccinated, so things are looking up. From the announcements for everybody who's watching and who has cases in front of immigration judges in New York City, please know that an announcement came out yesterday that New York City Immigration Court will be closed through June 11th. That means that the earliest that it would reopen is June 13th, which, and this is my prediction, I of course can be wrong, but I don't think they're gonna reopen until after Labor Day. That's what I think. That means all masters, all individual hearings, which is your final hearing in immigration court, will be postponed. We will not know the next court hearing for you for some time. The immigration court will send out new notices. You can always also check the 1-800 system to see. Sometimes the 1-800 system is updated a lot faster than the court sends out notices. They are backed up. They are working at a diminished capacity. They are, processing things a lot slower. So, immigration courts closed until June 11th, which is a Friday. That means the earliest they would reopen is June 13th. Nothing else that has happened in the last week. What do I want to talk to you today about? I want to talk to you about two-year green cards, or also known as conditional green cards. If you are married to a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, and you are married for less than 2 years when you apply, you will be, if approved, getting what's called a 2-year conditional residence. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that the green card is bad. It doesn't mean that the U.S. government is suspicious of you. It just means that because the marriage is so short, the U.S. government doesn't want, as a precaution, give you a 10-year green card. They give you a green card that is conditioned on you removing the conditions of residency 2 years after you get it. If you are successful in doing so, you can then get a 10-year green card. So let's start from the beginning. Let's say you got one of those 2-year green cards. First, it's a good green card. You could work, you could travel, same as everybody else's green card, except for the date of the expiration. 3 months before it expires, you need to file an application to remove the conditions. I want to caution everybody, we have been seeing a lot of it. That is not done by filing for a new green card form I-90. That is the wrong form to file. The form that you file is I-751. Do not file I-90 as a means of removing conditions of residence. You would have wasted your time and money because the U.S. government will take the filing fee and will then deny your application. The proper form is the removal of conditions of residence. There's actually a form by that name. Now, if you're married to a U.S. citizen and you're still together and living together, not just married, but actually living and having a life together with a U.S. citizen, you will be able to file the removal of conditions of residence 3 months before the 2-year green card expired. And then 2 years and 9 months after you were given this green card, you can still file for a citizenship based on being married to a U.S. citizen, right? The 3-year rule. You can have both of these applications pending at the same time. However, you will not get your citizenship until the conditions are removed. So even though there will be a time when both the citizenship and the removal of conditions will be pending at the same time, one of these things, which is the removal, will happen before you get your citizenship. That's that. So let's say you got the 2-year green card, a year and 9 months have gone by, and everything is great. You're having kids, you're not having kids, you're together, you're traveling, you're owning property. Whatever the case is, you are together with your spouse who applied for you. You just filed the removal of conditions of residence with the proof that you're together, you're still maintaining all the same things, still establishing a life together. Once you file, you will get a filing receipt, like a thick green piece of paper that will extend your current green card for 18 months and will give you the ability to travel with that paper. You will also do fingerprint appointment at ACS, and they will actually extend your physical card. Whichever one you have, you can travel with that, assuming obviously you have also a passport. That is our best case scenario. You know, you got your green card, you're together, everything is great. Now, there are circumstances in which people's marriages do not work out. Let's say just didn't work out, don't want to be together anymore. That doesn't mean that you will not have your green card. That means you can still file and have to file for removal of conditions of residence. If you guys are filing for divorce or are divorced, but please remember that you will still have to prove that the marriage was entered into in good faith, not for the purposes of getting the green card, but for the purposes of establishing a life together. Doesn't mean that if things didn't work out and you say, oh, you know, we had something and now we don't have it, the U.S. government is not going to be very understanding. They have to believe you that even though the marriage broke up, which is fine, you got to show them that it was a legitimate bona fide marriage. That is scenario number 2. Scenario number 3, if your husband or wife were abusive to you or the children, you can also file for removal of conditions of residence with a hardship waiver. We have done a lot of those cases and they are sometimes hard to do. There's a lot of emotional aspect. There's a lot of emotional aspect in every case when dealing with an abused spouse. You know, an abuse ranges from controlling somebody financially to threatening to deport them every time you get into a fight, sexual abuse, violence. You don't necessarily have to have filed police reports or even have the police involved. There are other ways of going about it. I strongly suggest that you talk to a lawyer and be very honest with the lawyer about, you know, what happened. Sometimes people have an understanding of abuse of only if, you know, you were physically harmed. No, abuse comes in many different variations, unfortunately. Sometimes it's compounded, you know, sometimes people come to me and they say like, well, this and this happened. I don't think it's abuse. And it is an abusive relationship. So, unfortunately, statistically, it's mostly women, especially women with small children. But the law does not discriminate based on sex. So if you were abused by your spouse and your spouse is a woman and you're a man, that works too. And of course, our law does not discriminate anymore, luckily, based on your sexual orientation. So the same rules apply to same-sex couples. Okay? No difference there whatsoever. So we work with you, we prepare, we get all the updated information, all of the evidence, we put it together, we'll file it, you get a receipt. Then, and again, I know I keep saying this, but it is true. In some instances, people will have to go to an interview. Sometimes people who are still married have to go to an interview. Sometimes people who filed with a waiver have to go to an interview. Sometimes they don't. Some of it depends on how good your evidence is. Some of it depends on what administration is in charge and what the administration's policies are in terms of interviews. Sometimes the administration will send out what's called an RFE, a request for evidence, to obtain more documents to show that the marriage was real. And, if we submit enough proof, they will forego an interview and just approve your 10-year green card as is. Just a little note, if you have a 2-year green card and you and your spouse are no longer living together, or you're divorced, and you were successful at removing your conditions of residence, you cannot take advantage of the 3-year rule. You have to wait the 5 years to apply for citizenship. The 3-year rule only applies to spouses of citizens who are still living together and still are actively married, right? So if you're not living together, not filing together, don't maintain the same residence, that rule does not apply to you. Okay, let's say you're unsuccessful and let's say you filed together, got divorced in the middle of the process, got denied the removal of conditions of residence. So you will get a decision from USCIS that will say that your I-751 was denied. What happens afterwards is 2 things. A, if you got divorced in the middle of it, you can then refile in a different category, because if you file together and then get divorced, that's a different category of removal of conditions of residence. So you can refile, get another bite with USCIS, or, and we saw this under the previous administration a lot, or you get put into what's called removal proceedings, when you have to go in front of an immigration judge, and the government will serve you with a notice to appear. Good news is, if you are proceeding on the same basis as the denied application in front of USCIS, you will get to renew it in front of the judge. What does that mean? That means the judge will schedule a hearing where you can bring witnesses, submit evidence, where the attorney, the judge, the government get to ask you questions. And if the judge believes you, finds you credible and the evidence sufficient, even though you were denied by USCIS, you can be approved by the judge and the removal proceedings would be terminated. You'd get your 10-year green card, and then would be able to, depending how long in the process we are, would be able to apply for a citizenship. Please understand that removal of conditions of residence is not a formality. A lot of people call us, and when we talk to them about the process or about the price, they're very surprised and they say, I don't understand, I already went through this process, all I have to do is file a form. That is not true. You're not just filing a form. It's not like the government just collects the fee and approves everybody. No, there's a lot of people whose removal of conditions of residence turns into a multi-year process with removal and going to the judge and motions and evidence. and witnesses. It is not a formality. If you don't do it, your status as a green card holder, the permanent resident, will be canceled. Again, I said it 15 minutes ago. I'm going to repeat it again. It is not done by filing Form I-90. Absolutely not. It is not a new green card. It is a process. The good news is if you talk to an attorney beforehand, you will be guided through the process. You will be told what evidence to get, to submit, and so on and so forth. The other news is if you filed thinking that it's just a formality and got a request for evidence, you still can get an attorney involved. We can still review the request for evidence. We can still advise you and work with you even after the filing to make sure that you are successful. And we have done it many times where people got, wrong advice or, just read about it a little bit. And then when they started the process, they kind of got spooked a little bit by its complexity. Or got spooked by a request for evidence and thought that, it means something bad. You can still get an attorney involved even at that process. Even if you got a denial, especially if you got a denial the first time around, definitely get an attorney involved. We can explain to you the consequences, the different outcomes, what can and cannot be done, and you can resolve the situation before causing more issues or getting yourself into a situation that's a lot more complicated than that. We have a lot of removal of conditions of residence pending. It is, I would say, like third most popular application, and we got, quite good at it. Schedule a consultation with us, if you have any questions. We will be able to guide you with the process. We do have a lot of experience with those. And of course, how the applications are adjudicated by USCIS depends on what the administration is in the White House and their, positions towards the immigration and, in general. I think that is all of my spiel for today. It is gloomy outside, so it's not as fun as last Thursday, but it's very nice. Was it last Thursday? I think it was last Thursday. But it is Thursday, which, as I say, is almost Friday. So enjoy that. It's not actively raining right now, so you have the chance, run out, go grab a cup of coffee, enjoy the small rays of sunshine. We're here, we're available. Please text us, call us. We do strive to return your calls and emails, within 24 to 48 hours. We do try to utilize email, and all the electronic means as much as possible, especially after COVID. Everything that's out there we have. Your spouse can be in one country, you can be in another, and we can jump on a WhatsApp call and see all of us and doing consultation. Technology is amazing, but we're also very understanding, and I just had this experience yesterday. There are people who don't use any electronic means of communication, don't like to use email. And if that's the case, talk to us. You could come see me in person. I will mail you things. You can mail things here. You can drop it off, assuming you let us know ahead of the time. So even though we are striving to make things as accessible as possible, it's only for those who want it. If you prefer to come in and do things in person, you want to be in the office, filling out the application, answering the questions, it's possible. We could do it. Sure. We have a thermometer. We'll ask you a few questions. It's not an issue. And if you prefer never to see us but through a screen, you could do that as well. We don't discriminate against screens. All right. I was very happy to see everybody. I hope you were happy to see me as well. Let me know what you want to talk to me about next. If there's going to be any major updates or anything comes out, we will definitely send an email. We will post it on Facebook and Twitter, maybe LinkedIn. We're everywhere. Happy weekend, everybody. I will see you in exactly 1 week.